since America with Eden Cornell. Yeah. It's time for Common Sense America with Eden Cornell.
And good morning, everyone. Good morning, my beautiful America. It is Friday. It is November the 11th. This is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Veterans Day. Yes, it is Veterans Day, and we have been celebrating our veterans and honoring our veterans this whole week at Common Sense America. We kicked off this week with Dr. Jennifer London and Ever Vigilant, and also POW Everett Alvarez from Vietnam. We kicked off with their powerful stories. We also had Carolina Museum of the Marine with retired Sergeant Major Joe Houle and also Brigadier General Kevin Stewart, and we were grateful for their stories as they continue to honor our Marines and our sailors. And also today, we have a very special interview with the Blue Angels Foundation. We are honored to have them here on the show for the very first time, and you will get to hear some amazing stories as we sit down and talk about our veterans, both the invisible and visible wounds of our veterans, and how the Blue Angel Legacy Foundation is leading the way to help our veterans. So we are honored to have them here. And also, I just wanted to send out a thank you to WHIG TV for carrying Common Sense America every Sunday at 1 p.m. And also to Beaufort County Now and the John Woodard Show for carrying Common Sense America. Thank you so much for your work with our show and with your partnership. We are grateful. Also, for next week, we have some very special new interviews, new commentary we are bringing to the table next week. We are focused on the holidays. We are focused on Thanksgiving. We are focused on human interest stories and giving back to our community. And so we're going to be bringing some very, very special people to the show next week. A lot of surprises and a lot of new faces. Some are local to Eastern North Carolina, and many are not. Some are focused in Florida, some are focused in New York City and around the nation. So we look forward to having you join us to hear stories of impact and how you can give back to our community during this season, whether it is at Thanksgiving, whether it is at Christmas, whether it is adopting a child, whether it's adopting a family, or whether it is being a pen pal for a veteran. There are many things that we are going to be exposing and talking about. This show is about God, country, family. The show is about truth. It is exposing the truth. It is talking about the heavy issues, especially those that are affecting our kitchen table conversations here in our nation. One thing I wanted to talk about this morning before we bring over our new guest from the Blue Angel Legacy Foundation. I am a veteran spouse, and I want to just send a shout out and thank you to our Marines, our Marines, our sailors, our soldiers, our Coast Guard, our aviators, and I'm also just want to send a thank you to my husband, who may or may not be watching the show this morning. He's looking for his veteran breakfast, that's for sure. And I just am grateful for the selfless sacrifice that they have done. I also wanted to highlight and recognize November is recognizing our National Caregivers Month, which I had not realized until this morning. And having worked with a lot of the caregivers at the VA and just working with our spouse community and our retiree community here in Eastern North Carolina, I want to recognize each and every one of you and thank you for your service. There is more than 50 million Americans who provide care for a veteran or a service member. So we want to honor you and thank you. As we head into our one and only segment this morning, I would love for our audience out there, Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, you know where you are. So many supporters out there who are tuning in on all the social channels on YouTube. Thank you so much for your support to Common Sense America. And thank you so much for honoring our veterans today. I have the distinct honor to bring over to the show a gentleman who I had the honor to meet at the Navy Ball in Washington, D.C., just a couple months ago, Mykityshyn. He is with the Blue Angels Foundation, and he is a board member for the Blue Angels Foundation. Mark, thank you so much for being here this morning. Welcome and happy Veterans Day. And I guess, can I say happy birthday, Marines?
Well, thank you very much, Eden. It's great to be here. And yes, thank you for the happy birthday wishes out to all of our Marines. And it's a pleasure to be here on Veterans Day. So thanks very much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It was an honor to meet you and your wife at the Navy Ball. But first, I read your resume, and I'm not going to do your bio. I'm not going to do it justice. But I want to pay tribute to your service first and foremost. You were an aviator. You graduated from the United States Naval Academy. You flew for the Marines. Did I also see that you were with the Blue Angels Squadron for a certain time as well?
Yes, yes. All the we'll talk about that later, but all the board members of the foundation are all volunteers and all former Blue Angels. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to thank you and your wife for your service to this nation. And first and foremost, I would love to start off the show talking about the foundation, how it began, what was the vision, and what was the groundwork that was laid through the Blue Angel Foundation.
Sure. Let me first start out by saying what it's not.
Sure.
So the Blue Angels Foundation is not part of the active duty Blue Angel Squadron. And
Mhm.
formally, the Blue Angels are the U.S. Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron,
Mhm.
which is an active duty military squadron. And of course, everyone who serves in the squadron is on active duty. And once you complete your tour with the Blue Angels, much like any college or university,
Mhm.
there's an alumni association that people participate with.
Sure.
And so over the years, as you well know, given your spouse and your involvement with the military community,
Mhm.
people who wear the uniform, find that to be a great honor and privilege. And,
Mhm.
and most people that I know, who I have served with, are always trying to find a way to continue to serve and,
Mhm.
and find a way to, in some small way, make a difference, whether it's through your community activities or what you do at work or church, or however you choose to really bring to that part of your community
Mhm.
the experiences that you've had and
Mhm.
also what it meant to wear the uniform.
Mhm.
And so we all look for ways to get back. And the Blue Angels are really focused on outreach and impact.
Mhm.
And it's really all about, the air show is a part of what the squadron does, but it's really oriented around being, if you will, an ambassador, for the military in general, but also on behalf of the nation, to kind of showcase for those people who are out there doing it every day,
Mhm.
what it means to serve and how to effectively bring to bear your training to do the things you need to do.
Mhm.
And so um, the association has been around for a long time. The Blue Angels were first formed in 1946.
Mhm.
And along the way, some former members thought it'd be a great idea. Having been college graduates and belong to their university and alumni associations, was, hey, this might be a great idea to form an alumni association of the Blue Angels. And so, somewhat innocuously, that's how that happened. And then further down the road, and I'm not exactly even sure when the foundation was created in terms of a formal organization,
Mhm.
but it all began with an idea. And
Mhm.
hey, we could do more. And now we're in business and we have other aspects to our life that we may not have participated in when we were, on the team. And
Mhm.
so a couple of guys, former team members, decided to create a foundation, and they went through the process and created a 501c3, which in today's structure for us,
Mhm.
the foundation is really the fundraising arm of the Blue Angels Association.
Okay.
And it started very modestly. It was two guys that lived in California and thought it would be a great idea to raise some money for members of the Blue Angel Squadron that had been killed in action, either as a Blue Angel or serving in combat uh,
Mhm.
after your tour with the Blue Angels.
Mhm.
And it started out in a very sort of innocuous way, just getting a bunch of guys together and going to play golf for the afternoon. And hey,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, would you like to contribute, whatever you want to contribute to a scholarship foundation for children of fallen Blue Angels?
Mhm.
And that's how it started. And it was a golf tournament that was held in San Diego, California, which happened to be where they live.
Sure.
And so they went to the local one of their country clubs, and that's really how it started
Mhm.
about 15 years ago.
So 15 years ago, it really started for those who, the families of the fallen, if you will, those who were killed in action, killed in combat, and specifically for the children.
Mhm.
And so, what does that look like now, fast forward these years later? Are you focused still on the children, or are you also working with the spouses? What let me do this. I was looking at your website this morning, and I absolutely want to just say this really quickly. Always remember, if you have been diagnosed with PTSD, it is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it is proof of your strength because you have survived. I absolutely just love seeing that. And as I go over to your homepage, I see so many different aspects of who you support and how to get involved. And there are so many different layers to that. I see the spouses, I see, the children. So, can you break down some of the uh, the outreach that you do, and what does that look like for, say, a veteran spouse like myself?
Sure. So maybe I'll go back just a little bit to how the metamorphosis of the foundation really
Sure,
transpired.
sure.
So the current board that's in place, several of us were former teammates,
Okay.
and while we continue to support the original mission and purpose of the foundation,
Mhm.
we decided to really expand the focus because of the acute need that's out in the community, our veterans community, in particular, our wounded veterans.
Yes.
And so we embarked on a process of really trying to find ways where we could kind of really use the Blue Angel model, where and the way the squadron is structured, as people out there probably know, we travel around the country every weekend doing air shows, and you become conjoined with that community. And
Mhm.
so, as part of that, you get to have the opportunity really to speak at different events.
Mhm.
You go to hospitals and meet with kids. You talk to
Sure,
parents. You go to
sure.
high schools. You go to events, and it's an outreach process.
Mhm.
So our thought was, instead of kind of confining the mission of
Mhm.
the foundation to one local geography, our view is to really spread awareness across the country. And
Mhm.
so to do that, we had to really adapt a different type of a structure
Mhm.
to what we wanted to
Mhm.
what the purpose was. And the purpose is really to have an impact. And of course, as we know, the problem in society in terms of mental illness in general,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
staggering. And
Yes.
so what we thought about doing was like, how could we have a national impact by really addressing an issue that was near and dear to us,
Mhm.
which was really trying to impact uh, veteran suicide. And
Yes.
so we reoriented the foundation to predominantly focus on
Okay.
PTS and PTS related issues.
Okay.
Although we do, as you point out, and is on our website, we support what we call a continuum of care. So it's taking the warriors that come back and have come back from wherever they've been serving around the world. A lot of people focus on the visible wounds, and there are great hospitals around the country that do
Yes.
that.
Yes.
There's maybe for your viewers to highlight, some of the things that some data. So if you really look back to, post 9/11, we've lost about 7,000 veterans who are military members who were killed in action. Over 50,000 have been wounded in action, approximately 1,700 major limb amputations. And the estimated number of people that suffered just from Iraq and Afghanistan is estimated to be about 500,000.
Mhm.
We know that number is low,
Yeah.
but I've been doing some research, as we all have, and we
Sure.
are connected to, and I'll get to that in a second,
Sure.
hospitals that we support that put veterans through PTS protocols. As they tell us, and you can read in scientific papers, one life, each of our lives, touches about 135 people.
Mhm.
And so if you do some simple math and
Mhm.
you take those two numbers, the 500,000, and multiply them and divide by the population in the country, you have about little over 20% of people in this country in one way or another are affected by PTS, whether you're a family member, whether you're a service member. So think about the composition of that 135 people. It's
Yes.
people you go to church with. It's kids your kids go to school with. It's people you interact with, and parents and business. And so it's a staggering problem. And in our view, we really wanted to try to impact. And yes, we still support the Scholarship Foundation, which was the original, if you will, foundational piece to what we do to support people in need. But we also support transition housing. We support other organizations that help in therapeutic ways. We support the Warrior Canine Connection, which is a group that has servicemen raise service dogs for other vets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the idea being, veterans being who they are.
Mm-hmm.
You have a mentality, of course, where you're pretty tough and you can do anything. And of course, when they're asked if they want a therapy dog, they'll say, "Oh, of course I don't need it, but my friend Joe really does."
Yeah.
So, of course, while you're training the dog, you're also getting therapy yourself. So organizations like that can have more than a one-to-one impact.
Mm-hmm.
We also provide networking opportunities for veterans. And personally, some of us mentor some of these vets in business. Several of us on the board, still run companies. I run a business myself, and so hiring veterans and helping them get really retransitioned back into society, to get them successfully back to their families, to get them successfully reintegrated back into society, for them to leverage all the talents and all the skills and all they have to give.
Mm-hmm.
Give them an opportunity to get back and do that. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when we first talked and hearing the conversation piece of the transitioning, because so many of our service members come home, then they get out, retire, etc., or have some kind of a medical issue, and it's all of a sudden their world just ended.
Yeah. So what happens really when you think about it, people are, when you think about a wounded vet, I mean, what is really a wounded vet with either visible or invisible wounds? I mean, these people, they're special people. They're great folks. They volunteered at a young age to serve the nation. They went through a boot camp or a service academy, officer training, and they earned the right to wear the uniform in this country, which, as you know, Eden, any vet will tell you, there's really no higher honor.
Yes.
After earning that right, they went for special training. Some people went off to be an infantry person or in aviation or in whatever their discipline was.
Yes.
And then the post 9/11 veterans deployed, and they deployed a lot. And as people who have served know, when you go into these combat deployments, you're really forced to do things to execute and win on the battlefield. And, people seem to sometimes in society forget that the real reason the military exists is to win.
Yes.
These people are highly trained to do that, but a lot of the things that they do are really they're not pleasant. And over the years, in talking to a lot of these veterans, you really learn firsthand, the tragedies of war. Having to kill people and see your friends being killed or injured is horrific. And it stays with you for the rest of your life, and as it would for all of us. I mean, you see things that you shouldn't be seeing. And so when you come back, you're part of an elite team, whether you're in aviation or any of these other disciplines, and you serve together, you eat together, you train together, you do all these things together, and that really becomes your extended family.
Yes.
And then you come back. And so there's a lot of injured veterans. Like I said before, there's over 50,000 of them. They go to hospitals, around the country, depending on the nature of their injury. The best rehab place for them to go is where they're served. But at some point, to your point, there's if you will, a day of reckoning where they have to go to a medical board. And so really either, one of two things happens. You remain on active duty. So for those service members, that's fantastic. You're still wearing the uniform. You're still part of the team. You have full pay and benefits.
Right.
You get to return to your unit. And most importantly, the things that you've worked for, really the better part of your life, becomes your identity as part of that family. And your identity is still intact. And so it's great for those people. But what happens if the board decision goes the other way?
Right.
And you're retired and you're disabled?
Right.
You're off the team, right? Your family, they're still serving, and you feel like you've let them down. And here you are at home, and all your buddies and friends and your family are still serving. So in your mind, you've let them down. So, and you've come back. So you're not on the team anymore. You don't have a uniform. You have reduced pay and benefits. Your identity, self-esteem, self-confidence, all the things that you need to be successful in the military, those are all gone.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? And what if you have a significant injury, a significant physical injury? Maybe you lost an eye or lost a limb or you're severely burned. And for sure, absolutely, you have some level of PTS.
Sure.
You're young, you have no network, you have little or nothing saved. So what do? All these things conspire against you. And, you can really understand how easy it would be for someone to go down this slippery slope of addiction, depression, and in way too many cases, suicide. Mm-hmm. So we lose 22 veterans a day. We've lost more veterans in the last several years than we've lost post 9/11. We lose 8,000 a year. We lost 7,000 in 20 years of warfare. It's an epidemic, and that's really what we're really focused on. So it's a big problem. Veterans are deserving of the utmost care that they can get. And so, as I said earlier, we're a board. We're an all-volunteer board of 10 people. And so in order to maximize our impact, we decided to really partner with other organizations that are more established than we are.
Okay.
And so we partnered with an organization that supports putting veterans through PTS. And there's 4 hospitals we support around the country. Mm-hmm. There's a geographic dispersion for a reason. All the veterans go for free, their family goes for free. And depending on the nature of what needs to be treated in terms of their PTS, they either go to Emory University in Atlanta, mm-hmm. or up to home base in Boston, which is a partnership between Harvard Medical School, the Boston Red Sox Foundation, and Mass General Hospital. Mm-hmm. Or they can go to Rush Medical Center in Chicago or UCLA Medical Center. And in combination with that organization, over the last 4 years, we've been able to either match or raise just over $50 million.
That's fabulous.
Which has put about 30,000 vets through PTS protocols with a 90% rate of success. Now, are they cured? No. Right. As I said earlier, these things stick with you for the rest of your life. And so we're trying to play a small part in terms of helping these veterans, but by helping them, these protocols that are being developed and implemented at these hospitals are now being used nationwide to address, the broader mental illness problem that we face in this country, which is huge.
Can you talk to some specifics of the protocols? So we're seeing them canvassed throughout. Are these protocols also being used in the VA medical centers and the little mom and pop VAs, shops that we have here in Eastern North Carolina servicing 9,000 veterans? Are they doing those types of protocols? Are you aware of that?
It really depends on the facility.
Okay.
There's an organization in North Carolina that we actually support that's called Hopeway. One of our board members, who is also a Blue Angel, lives in North Carolina and does a lot of work with Hopeway, and we sponsor them as well. And they also treat veterans with PTS. But it really, Eden, it depends on the nature of the PTS. The veterans hospitals, I think, as most people in the military would probably know, but others may not. Let me give you for example.
Sure.
At the Naval Academy just erected a cybersecurity center.
Yes.
And part of that was a gift from the federal government. It was allocated in the National Defense Authorization Act several years ago. So they got about $120 million to erect that building. Mm-hmm. But the money stopped there. So it was incumbent upon the private sector to actually fund the build out of that building. And so the Naval Academy Foundation, through its philanthropic efforts, mm-hmm. raised the money to equip that building. And so there's really a partnership between the private sector and the public sector in a lot of ways that people may not really fully understand. So in a lot of ways, the VA turns to what the private sector is doing, the medical community, and the protocols that they have. And so there's an information sharing that goes back and forth, not only between these 4 hospitals and the VA and other centers that treat PTS, but there's also an exchange of data between hospitals that are in what we call the Warrior Care Network and other hospitals around the country. So, sometimes we, and people in the military would certainly understand this, just like the services can sometimes be siloed, where the Air Force does what the Air Force does and the Army does what they do. And as Marines, we do what we do, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes the nature of being siloed or being confined to the mission that your particular service is executing tends to not support the transfer of ideas and the sharing of ideas. And so where innovation and insights can be applied in other areas. It's when you're trying to solve, very, very complicated problems, like post-traumatic stress.
Right.
Like other, for example, I'm in the technology arena and have been for most of my career. If you look at these complicated problems, they really happen at the intersection of disciplines. And so that's where breakthroughs really happen. So for example, when you treat PTS, there's a spiritual component to it. There's a therapeutic component to it. There's a physical component to it. So all these things are brought to bear to treat that person and that form of PTS from a holistic perspective, drawing on insights that might happen at another hospital, outside Mass General, for example. And where I live here in Northern Virginia in the McLean area, we've got some pretty good hospitals, right? George Washington Hospital, Georgetown University, Hopkins is right here.
Yes.
They treat veterans. And so the idea, what we're trying to do in our reach out is we're really trying to be a connecting point for a lot of these organizations. And so for a lot of people, hopefully the Blue Angel, if you will, brand is very well known.
Oh, of course.
People understand, what it stands for. And so our view is, why can't we be the group that connects various aspects of the public sector with the private sector to just expand the reach and expand impact?
Right.
There's a lot of great foundations that are set up there to do that. But for me and for us, we're really trying to focus on, the Blue Angels is it's got nothing to do with the Blue Angels or you as a Blue Angel. It's everything about who you're serving and what the purpose is.
Exactly.
So to take that out and say, our foundation exists to serve other people anybody we can help, we're going to help. If people call us up and ask, hey, how do we do this? Or how do you think about that?
Yes.
We'll talk to anybody. Because I truly believe that it's really, just like the Socratic method or the scientific method, where each discovery, each innovation is a building block that eventually leads you to cultivating, a greater and better understanding of the types of issues that you have to address in order to be as successful as you can be, in the treatment protocol as you think about these different things. So I think the connectivity in general between public and private sector is anywhere more important than here between the private sector medical community, and the VA and other organizations like that, because there's only so much you can do, with the federal budget.
Yes, exactly.
If you just look at defense related technologies and you look at all the innovation that happens in the private sector, the military's capabilities to fight wars. And it's really interesting analogy to be made between, the physical, or as they say, the kinetic aspect of warfare, where you're actually shooting at someone, versus the cybersecurity warfare. It's almost an analogy between the visible and invisible wounds of war, right? You can't see cyber war, but it happens every day. Exactly. And it's been happening every day. So sometimes people only seem to treat what they can see, and they don't really treat what they can't see. And so I can tell you the private sector has a huge impact in the cybersecurity posture of our nation. Much in the same way that our private hospitals and medical community can have that much of an impact on the VA and the people that they're trying to treat. So in my view, they have to go hand in hand. So we're just trying to do our piece, to expand that partnership between public and private.
Let me ask you this from a veteran spouse standpoint. I am surrounded by amazing veterans, Marine Corps, Army, you name it, and in this Camp Lejeune area. What is it for them to get involved with the Blue Angel Foundation? One, service connection, potential protocols to the hospital, or to get involved, donate, help with the events, raise awareness. What are ways that people can get involved to, one, for the physical aspect, but then also two, for the financial aspect to help the Blue Angels?
Mhm. Sure. So what we started, and our website is in the process of being redone, so it will
Okay.
be much more expansive in terms of details that we give out. But
Okay.
we do have a social media presence. Both the foundation and the association
Mhm.
uh, do a lot on social media, and so people can reach out to us directly. They can reach out through the website. They can get in touch with veterans that they know, who know us,
Mhm.
and there's a variety of different ways to do that. So
Mhm.
we will announce events that we're going to have, and so for example, we have events all around the country now, and that's really, it's continuing to evolve, but it's really come into prominence over the last 3 or 4 years. So we have an event here in the Washington, D.C. area that I host.
Okay.
We do an event at the Naval Academy in May during
Okay.
commissioning week.
Right.
We have an event in San Francisco. We have an event in Houston. We have an event in San Diego.
Mhm.
We're going to have an event in Florida
Mhm.
next year in Jacksonville,
Okay.
which is where Wounded Warrior Project is based. And
Yes.
so there are multiple ways to reach out and connect. And we're always looking for ways to expand that as well. So
Mhm.
I'm really appreciative of your having me on this morning so we can talk a little bit about this. A lot of it's word of mouth too, Eden.
It is. It is. Well, I mean, just sitting, being able to meet you and your wife at the Navy Ball in DC, and just being able to talk, what is happening in and around us. We were surrounded by all these service members, knowing, and then also POWs at our own table, knowing that it is around us daily. It is, like you said, 135 people that we touch. The 20% are affected by PTS,
Mhm.
and that's powerful for us to think about. There is a mental health epidemic, and there is a mental health epidemic that I'm going to say, you don't have to say, I'm going to say a lot of it has to do with what happened in the past 2 years. It increased it even more with what happened in the past couple years of the isolation techniques, which I don't agree with. And people need community. They need to be connected. They need to be a part of something. And that is what I love about the Blue Angels Foundation, because you are connecting the children, you are connecting the spouses, you are connecting the invisible and invisible wounds of our warriors to have them put in specific protocols. I love the fact that you mentioned that some of the best hospitals in the private sector are really working with the Blue Angels Foundation to help our veterans through this. And I would love for you, if you have a moment, to share, are there any stories that you have seen from beginning to process to end of a veteran or a spouse that has just, there's victory at the end for them? Yes, they're always going to go through certain journeys, if you will, but there's always victory. There's always that aspect and that focal point. Can you share any specific stories from a veteran standpoint or a spouse standpoint?
Sure, there are a lot of them. I don't know if you can show videos.
I
Uh,
can. I
well,
can.
you can.
Yes. Yes. Is there one on your website? I have your website pulled up.
There is. Their story is best told by them.
Hmm.
And what I could do, if it's not too disruptive, I can send you a video that I think the viewers would really, really enjoy seeing.
Sure. Sure. We can definitely do that.
But I will tell you, Eden, while I'm looking for this,
Sure. Not a
there
problem.
is nothing more powerful than having the son or daughter of
Mhm.
a wounded veteran come up to you and thank you for getting their dad back to them or their mom
Yeah.
back to them. It's incredibly powerful, and they really look to this treatment protocol to really get their lives back and get them back on track. So let me, I will send this to you right now.
Are you going to do it to my email?
I'm going to send it right to your email. Yep.
Okay, great. Great. For all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill, and we are talking with the Blue Angels Foundation board member, Mark Mykityshyn, and we are going to be showing you a video of the Blue Angels Foundation as we're going to be loading that up here momentarily.
It's a video of Sergeant Travis Peterson, who is a Marine. And he tells the story of his journey, and kind of the embodiment of what we do is really what you'll see in this video.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and get it queued up and we can air this.
And then we can talk about some of the things you see in that video.
Of course. Of course. Let me put this up here.
You know, most people, when they drive down the road and they see a car on the shoulder of the road, they don't think about it. But for us veterans, we drive down the road, we see that car, it takes you back to Fallujah. For example, me, it takes me back to the car that hit my truck and exploded and killed my Marines. Being in the Marine Corps was everything to me. It really was one of the best things I did. I had a sense of family that maybe I never had before. For the first time in my life, I had brothers. We lived together, we ate together, we worked together, we trained together, we suffered together. When your life is in somebody else's hands, it creates a bond that a lot of people can't really comprehend. The incident that kind of ended my career in the Marines took place on October 30th, 2004. We had just finished up a little operation and we were driving down the road, and a SUV that was parked on the side of the road, when we passed by, it sped up and rammed us. And when it did, he triggered an explosion. It was a suicide bomber and it was intentional. You know, when you hold somebody in your arms and they die, and you hear the sounds and you smell the smells. Unfortunately, that's stuff that will be a part of you. That's stuff that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. As a leader, my job was to protect my Marines. And for a very long time, I felt like a failure because I didn't. And I blamed myself. And I got really drunk and I got really high and I got really angry and pushed a lot of people out of my life. And I was having horrible thoughts, horrible nightmares. I didn't want to be alive. I didn't talk about it. I didn't speak about it. I wouldn't tell people I was in the Marines. So the mental scars are always there, almost like a little birdie tapping you on the shoulder to say, hey, don't forget about this. Don't forget about me. I'm still here.
And things started to change when I noticed his temper became shorter. He was much more easily aggravated. He began to isolate himself.
It was bad. It was really bad. I put my wife through a lot of stuff, mental anguish that I wouldn't wish on anybody.
I was afraid emotionally that my daughter would not be able to connect with her dad. And she loves Travis to pieces. And we had gotten to the point that I would pick her up from school and I would walk in first just to make sure he was okay. Because I feared that at any moment I would come in and he'd be dead.
So while they're deployed, veterans are making, adaptations to a life and death scenario. And that makes perfect sense for that environment. But a lot of those adaptations don't really translate nicely to their lives back home and can be very disruptive to relationships, to career, or to just their enjoyment of life in a civilian world back home. So if left untreated, PTSD can result in homelessness, unemployment, family relationships ending, total isolation from social relationships, hopelessness, and ultimately a sense of being a burden or being better off dead, or even thinking about suicide or acting on those thoughts. Home-Based Program is a private philanthropically funded clinic for veterans and their family members. It was founded through a partnership between Massachusetts General Hospital and the Red Sox Foundation. We treat veterans and their family regardless of their era of service or their ability to pay.
And the staff at home base did such a wonderful job of making you feel at home. And I began to open up, and I started sharing in the group, and I started sharing with my therapist, and started talking about some of the stuff that I never told anybody. And it got to a point where I actually looked forward to sitting down with my counselor.
The way home base take care of the whole family, to me, is a huge reason to support the group, because it wasn't just focused on my husband. Initially, they gave him his week to focus on himself. Then they brought the spouse in, brought me in, and then we worked together.
They gave her a voice for her to really be able to speak up and say, hey, I'm not the enemy. I'm here to help you. I'm standing beside you. So home base was a lifesaver. I can now think about playing with my daughter. I can want to be around the family. I can be present at birthday parties and not be an embarrassment or not be ashamed to go out there. I was heading towards some very bad areas. And because of programs like the Blue Angels Foundation giving money to home base, they saved one veteran, and I'm that veteran.
It's our duty as a nation to provide for the individuals who have sacrificed on our behalf. They've done their part, and it's time for us to step up and help them and hold up our end of the bargain when they come home and they need some support.
There is no way we could have coordinated getting those medical professionals, all of that information together to help us address our situation specifically. And so the donations really help to save marriages, to save families, and to give hope. And I know he's taken such great steps to be where he is today. And I don't want to imagine life without him.
Donations to the Blue Angel Foundation are a critical part of what allows us to do these intensive clinical services here at home base. And without that kind of support, we wouldn't be able to exist and to continue to support veterans and provide life-saving or life-altering care.
It's a humbling feeling to know people care enough to change your life positively. When you think you're alone or by yourself, you're not. And for someone to care enough, there's nothing I can ever do to repay that. I can only simply tell them thank you.
So that's why we do what we do.
That is powerful.
It's really, Travis is a great guy, and Joy and Kenzie, they've been to several of our events. And to see a little bit of, we didn't see the complete, if you will, before and after, but just seeing, how much Travis has changed even over the last 2 to 3 years has been amazing. And, Amy and I were at home base last week, actually.
Were you?
Yeah, it's an amazing facility, right on the water in Boston. They got a great facility there, and they just do a remarkable job. And Emory is the same, and so is Rush and also UCLA Medical Center, and they do great work. And they're willing to share that. You mentioned something that's so critically important is, you talk about wounded veterans in particular, and maybe veterans in general. All veterans are willing to take a lot of risk. They're willing to risk everything and volunteer to do that. And it's less than 1% of the population of this country that stands up and says, I want to serve. And out of a sense of duty and a lot of other emotions that are embroiled in that. And it varies from person to person, but there's such a common theme about, duty and purpose and mission and serving something that's greater than yourself. And as a volunteer, that's pretty powerful. But, behind those people that serve are families, and there are, significant others if people are not married or you don't have a life partner. But there's someone behind everybody who's in a uniform, a lot of people. And so what we really like about these programs is that you're really treating the family.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a service member who is unfortunately killed in action, that family has also made the ultimate sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking at our event in San Francisco about a month or so ago, and I had the privilege of sitting next to some Gold Star parents,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost their only son. And that was 15 years ago, and he has a therapy dog. He's gone through PTS treatment, and people walking around society. I mean, look, let's face it, a lot of the things that have happened in this country over the last several years are very, very stressful for a lot of people. So
Yes, they are.
there's a lot of people that really maybe don't understand the nature of their stress. And so treating problems holistically, looking at problems from an interdisciplinary way, like what can we take that Homebase does that maybe John Hopkins does to find the treatment protocol for Eden, or for, John Campbell or whomever, is
Yep.
really powerful. And the family, like Joy said, it's been great watching Joy and Kinsey. They came to our event in San Diego, which was the week after the event in San Francisco. And, Travis spoke, as you might imagine. It was a pretty emotional talk for just a few minutes, and then Joy spoke, and they gave the microphone to Kenzie, and she couldn't talk. It was so cute.
Oh, I'm sure.
But to see how she's evolved in her personality and her level of being outgoing,
Yes.
going through this as a family together, as a family unit, they're much, much stronger than they were even a year ago or 2 years ago, and they'll tell you that
Yes.
for you. So it's really an issue that people need to pay attention to. And like you said, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, listen, something's not right here, and I'm going down a path that I don't want to be on.
Exactly.
And I just want to reach out and tell someone I've got a problem.
Yes.
Or, and I want someone to talk to, or someone that can help me.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incredible sign of strength to do that, as you pointed out before. It's not a weakness. It's back when, of course, I served a while ago. But, when I grew up and playing sports and playing sports at the Naval Academy, in football, if you get hit, it was like, hey, you got your bell rung, get back in there.
Right.
And so nobody thought about that, right? Well, now we know a lot about concussions and concussion protocol.
Yeah.
Same in the military, but it's just like football players who get hurt. They want to be in the game, right? They want to be there. And people that wear a uniform, take that, several orders of magnitude beyond that. You really want to serve. I mean, you're out there, you're putting your life in somebody's hands.
Yes.
You want to be there. Okay, if you're hurt, you want to stay. But really, they've got a problem that they really need to solve and address. And again, sometimes it's not really doing it for you. It is, but it's doing for those 135 other people's whose lives you're touching by how you feel about yourself, about your mental well-being, about your physical well-being.
Yes.
And that's really important for people to understand. It's really, much in the same way that, that serving a purpose greater than yourself really isn't about you. The treatment protocol is about saving your life, but you're bringing 135 other people along with you when you do that.
Exactly.
So thinking about them and having the bigger picture in mind. And these vets will tell you that they didn't understand it. They didn't understand that impact when they started it, but they get it now.
Yeah, of course. Of course they do.
Like people were telling me as a plebe at the Naval Academy, hey, this harassment package is really good for you. It's going to build class unity, and you're going to develop this sense of loyalty and cohesion. I'm like, yeah, right. Just let me sit down and be by myself for a while.
Right.
But when you do serve, you realize that, and you get out there and you're doing it, you realize that's all true. You just never really thought about it that way. So you talk to Travis or talk to all these other veterans, and it's great that they come to our events. Our events celebrate them.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
The Blue Angels Foundation is a mechanism to do that, but it's nothing about being a former Blue Angel. It's nothing about that. It's about them.
Right.
So we want them to be there for people to get exposure to them. And the type of people they are, and their resiliency, and all those things that lead to who they are as people. They just really shine through. And seeing them now, so some of these people, I'll tell the viewers too that we have two daughters. One of them is going to be a nurse in college. The other one has chosen to do a neuroscience degree
Oh,
based on her interactions with these wounded veterans
wow.
over the last probably 5, maybe 7 years. She's met these people. She understands what they went through and
Yeah.
what they continue to go through. They've come to our house, they come to our events. They've spent time with our family. They've spent time with our friends. I've introduced them to a lot of people because I want them to meet these people because of who they are. They're great people. But one of these fellows was a Navy corpsman,
Mhm.
and he was assigned to Marine units he did 11 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm.
So you can only imagine,
Yes.
what he has seen and what he's been through. And his daughters are my daughter's age, and so for him to talk to my kids about what he went through and what it's really like, and what it was like for his kids to go through that.
Mhm.
Not only does it put it in perspective, but you get a real opportunity to celebrate these people
Yes.
and who they are and what they've done. So,
Mhm.
um,
Well, I tell you, every Friday here at Common Sense America, we feature a veteran or a spouse and also remember everyone deployed. So I would love to invite any of your spouses back to the show, especially Travis's spouse, if she would love to come and talk about her journey and her story. This is a spouse community right here. And between the veteran spouses and the military, active duty military spouses, I have no doubt that her story would impact all of them. So we would have open invitation to have any of them come back and share their story of impact. And I tell you what, doing these featured stories, especially for Veterans Week and even after that, they have been the top rated for my shows thus far. It has been our veteran stories. So we have got to continue to push them out because people want to hear that. They want to see leaders. They want to see leadership. They want to be able to support in some way. And this is one of the best ways to do that is to get involved with the Blue Angel Foundation. Let me ask you on a final note as we're wrapping up. I can't believe we're almost to the hour. And it's just been an amazing time to sit here and just talk with you about these important issues. Will you have anything coming up for the holiday season where we could, those who wanting to support the Blue Angel Foundation, is there any way that we can help serve during Thanksgiving or Christmas and giving to these families?
well, there always is, Joy. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Joy joining your show. She would love to come, and I will talk to her about it. She is.
I love that name. That's a great name.
And she radiates joy. I mean, she is just
Yes.
she is such a bright. She just radiates personality and exudes confidence now, and it's just so kind of amazing to watch that transformation. And so yes, I would. I'm going to reach out to her, and I'll put you two in touch. Maybe we can get on a phone call together.
Oh, that'd be
I
great.
love talking to her, and obviously Travis is a great guy as well. But yes, we can. You can always donate, through the website to
Okay.
the foundation,
Okay.
and we will. We post on our website when we're having events
Mhm.
around the country. We don't have any formal events that are set up around the holidays. It's a pretty busy time.
Mhm.
There is an event this weekend in Pensacola. This is the end of the season air show for
Right.
the Blue Angels,
Right.
where there'll be a small event there that the foundation will hold tonight. But other than that, nothing formal, but you can always donate through the website.
Okay, well, fabulous. Mark, it's been great to have you. I much love to your wife. She's a warrior herself. She's amazing. I just absolutely love her. But I'm also so grateful to have you. Next time we're going to get her here as well.
Great.
And I'm just grateful to have the Blue Angels Foundation here today for Veterans Day. And if there's anything that you do out there for this audience, raise your flag or put on some of your gear or go thank a veteran or go buy a veteran a meal. And on that note, I need to go buy my favorite veteran a meal this morning. I know he's been wanting breakfast, but do I dare say happy birthday Marine Corps one more time and say go Navy beat Army? Because I know that game's coming up here soon.
You've got that exactly right, Eden. Thank you.
Yes. And
appreciate the plug. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It's a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, the Army gear is out and ready for the Army Navy game. So we are a house divided. So anyway, but on that note, Mark, thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
joining
you,
us.
Eden. It was my pleasure to be here.
I
Thank you
look
so
forward
much.
to, oh, my pleasure. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. And until then, have a wonderful Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks,
All right.
Eden. Have a great
You're
day. Take
You
care.
too. Bye-bye. For all those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. It is about 5 till 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Today is Veterans Day. It is Friday, November the 11th. And wow, what an amazing hour we have spent with the Blue Angel Foundation. If you are interested in getting involved in volunteering and donating, or if you know of a veteran service member who may, or a veteran spouse who may need that extra hand, go to the blueangelsfoundation.org. Go to blueangelsfoundation.org. Also, you can follow them on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. They're on all your social platforms. Go check them out as well. And we're going to take just a quick break, and we'll be right back with our final notes. Thank you. And we are back. And thank you so much for all of those who tuned in to Common Sense America this week for our Veteran Tribute Week. Thank you for all of our contributors and our commentators who have joined Common Sense America. We are so grateful for each and every one of you and your support of Common Sense America, bringing truth to our nation. I just wanted to send a shout out to the Special Forces Museum, the United States Army Airborne and Special Operations Museum in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Highly recommend it. They have the Super 61 helicopter rotor from Black Hawk Down on display. Highly recommend you taking your kids there. It is open today, and it's just, I have been there, I've walked through it, it is amazing. Plan on spending a full day there because it is very powerful. Their theme is to engage, educate, and inspire, and they certainly have. Also today on USA Today this morning, they are talking Starbucks veteran deals, free hot or iced coffee today, Dunkin' Donuts, free donut, Krispy Kreme Veterans Day deal, free donut and coffee, Olive Garden Veterans Day free meal, Outback Steakhouse, free Bloomin' Onion and drink, Applebee's free meal and a coupon, IHOP free pancakes, Denny's free Grand Slam, Buffalo Wild Wings free wings and fries, Red Robin, free burger and fries, Texas Roadhouse, free meal voucher, and Wendy's, a free breakfast. Also, Red Lobster, free shrimp, California Pizza Kitchen, free meal and free voucher, Cracker Barrel, free dessert, Little Caesars, free lunch combo, White Castle, free combo meal, Zaxby's, free wings, Pete's Coffee, free coffee, and the list goes on. So to all of the veterans out there, thank you for your service. And for all of those who are tuning in on Common Sense America, we thank you for your continued support to this show. We wish you a blessed Veterans Day and a restful weekend. We will see you Monday right back here at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have a great next week. I look forward to being with you all. God bless you.